Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Tuesday, the 14th day of February 2023. I hope you're all safe and healthy today. I hope your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders who every day are trying to save lives. And those that pick up garbage for us, that keep streets and sidewalks and parks and stairwells, buildings clean and disease-free. And those also that make deliveries for us of important things that we take for granted, like food and water and mail. Double blessings on the men and women that are out here trying to help rescue and deliver and recover the teenagers and the children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. The victims also of pornography and child pornography. The victims also of prostitution and child prostitution. The victims also of human trafficking and sex slavery. Double curses. Double curses on the perpetrators of these things. Double curses on the profiteers of these things. Double curses on the perverts that create this heinous and disgusting industry. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children that are living in the streets, mostly children, of the United States of America, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There was a basketball game last night. The New York Knicks played the Brooklyn Nets, and for the first time in 9 attempts, the Knicks beat the Nets last night. It was a fight. It was a scrape and scrap. It was an NBA game, but at the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, the Knicks took control of the game and finished it out, winning by 18, but it wasn't even that close in the fourth quarter. The Knicks last night, put it this way, Julius Randle had 18 points, right? He shoots 7 of 17. He gets 10 rebounds, 4 assists, right? R.J. Barrett has 4 points. He shoots 2 of 8 from the field, 0 of 3 from the three-point line. He had 3 turnovers and 5 personal fouls. And we won the game. That's pretty big, right? Last night, Mobbdeep, the bench for the New York Knicks, otherwise known as Mobbdeep, had 52 points, led by Josh Hart's 27. So generally speaking, prior to the acquisition of Josh Hart, Mobbdeep would be led by Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. In fact, I created the name based on Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. Because as you remember, 2 years ago, when they were rookies, when they came in, the Knicks would go up a couple of notches. They were so good that, we wanted them to get more minutes, and many of us were frustrated with Tom Thibodeau because he was limiting them, especially Obi. And then last year, very similar situation. We would be dependent on the bench to bring us back from deficits or create enough leads so that the starting unit wouldn't lose it, which often happened. This year, with Tibbs knowing that Quickly, Toppin, McBride, Grimes, these guys in their second and third seasons, he's starting to trust them more. Now, Toppin had 16 minutes yesterday. He scored 2 points. Toppin's minutes, as we all know, have been limited to the disappointment of many. But that's because of the minutes that Julius Randle is getting. Now, last night, Julius had 32 minutes at power forward, and Toppin had 16 minutes at power forward to make it total 48. That wouldn't be a bad thing, to continue, but you just never know. Tibbs goes with the ebb and flow of the game and how he's feeling at times, but that wouldn't be a bad thing. But last night, Obi had 16 at power forward and Julius had 32. My point, though, is that with the acquisition of Josh Hart, Mobbdeep went to a new level. See, I thought it would go to a new level with Alex Caruso. I wasn't really thinking about Josh Hart. His name came up the week of, his name started popping up the week of the trade deadline. And it made sense. I mean, him and Caruso are very similar, but Hart would be more special because of his relationship with Jalen Brunson and the fact that he's a Tibbs guy. Tibbs stated plainly after the trade, it was a guy they targeted. And unlike last year when they made a move for Cam Reddish and Tibbs wasn't with it, Everybody was on board from the front office down to tips, and that's important. You want to have everybody as much as possible. You're not going to always have that, but you'd like to have your president of basketball operations, and his staff, and the coaching staff, led by the head coach, to be on the same page as much as possible. That's part of a new culture. That's part of long-term sustainable winning, actually. So you want Tibbs and you want Leon to be on the same page. In this case, they were exactly on the same page when it came to Josh Hart. So the acquisition of him brought Mobbdeep now is on a different level. Okay, so that last night you got 52 points from your bench. You did, Jalen Brunson dropped 40, and that was huge. And he was tremendous. He shot 15 of 21. I mean, he was very efficient. I think that was the most efficient I've seen him. And 0 turnovers, 5 assists. His free throw shooting was off, last night. He was 4 of 8 from the free throw, which is very unusual for him. But, everybody goes through those periods. So, but the starting unit, Grimes had 8 points. Of course, he only took 5 shots. And of course, Grimes does a lot on the floor, very similar to Hart. He's bringing you a lot of things. He really is a Swiss Army knife. Shooting is just one of the things. He was 2 of 4 from the three-point line. He ended up with 8 points. But Barrett had a horrible, horrible game. RJ Barrett has been really shaky for a while. He goes from really good to really bad. And then, we're going to have to roll with him. I know a lot of people, and it's amazing how people make snap judgments, snap decisions based on a period of time, small period of time usually for any player. This is going to happen, or this guy's going to take this guy's place. This is not high school. This is the league. You need to look longer term at things, even during the course of a season. Now the Knicks are in position where we're preparing for the playoffs. We're going to talk about that. And so you got to look longer term. RJ is going to be very important to the Knicks in the playoff run. Okay, so calm down. But he had a bad game yesterday. Sims, Jericho, 7 boards. He's never been a shooter, but what I like about Jericho Sims, aside from the obvious athleticism he displays, is there was a play where he got the rebound and started a break. That's huge. See, one of the things that makes Bam Adebayo special is he can do that. He can get the rebound and start a break. He can actually initiate the offense. Now, I'm not saying Jericho Sims is going to be Bam Adebayo. I mean, he might, but I don't think so. But he seems to have the ability to put the ball on the floor for sure and start a break. I think it's a matter of confidence more than talent, because he looked like he could do that. Okay, if he's able to do that, that would make the Knicks even more dangerous, if he can do that. Okay, so he played 24 minutes. He played really good defense, as he always does. He was minus 11. Matter of fact, only Brunson and Randall were positive as far as plus minus. Mobbdeep, it was 2 guys. It was Fournier and Deuce who came in, garbage time. But other than that, the guys in the rotation, which is Quick, Hart and Steen, and Obi Toppin, they were all positive. Very big impact on the game yesterday. They really blew out the game. The second unit really did it. And that's the thing. See, you're going to get games where RJ is going to do this and not going to play well. You're going to get games where Sims is not going to shoot well. You're going to get games where Randall only gets 18 points and shoots 1 of 6 from 3. But if you can have a bench that can consistently come in and put pressure on the opponent like this bench can, you're going to win a lot more games, see? And the Knicks are going to be a real threat come playoff time. And so this was very important and very big. So at this point, it's very exciting. Talking about the playoff race now. Right now, as we all kind of feel in our gut, I feel like I can say that, but many of us feel in our gut that the Knicks have a shot at the 5th seed. Not just the 6th seed, the 5th seed. Some people talking 4th. I'm not really seeing that. It could happen. I mean, anything could happen. Somebody can go on a losing streak. Cleveland could go on a losing streak. Somebody can get hurt. Something can happen. But it looks like the teams at the top 4 of the East are really just jockeying for their position in the top 4. But the next 2 or 3, you're talking about, 5th, 6th, especially, and then 7th, there's a fight. Nobody wants to be in the play-in. Right now, there's 2 games separating Brooklyn from the Knicks. Brooklyn in the 5th seed, the Knicks in the 7th seed. There's a half game separating Miami and the Knicks. Half game. Okay. As I mentioned, every game at this point, from time you get into January going forward, every game is important. There's no such thing as one must win. They're all must win games. Some of them get more important as you get closer to the playoffs, but they're all must win right now. So here's the interesting thing. Now, Atlanta, the Knicks are 2.5 games up on Atlanta. Atlanta lost last night. To who did they lose to? I think they lost to Orlando. No, they lost to Charlotte. Atlanta lost to Charlotte last night. They're going LaMelo Ball put on a show. I was watching some highlights of that game at the halftime of the Knicks game. So Atlanta right now is in the AFC 29-29. Now, this is the interesting thing. Miami plays at Brooklyn tomorrow, Wednesday, the 15th. Miami plays at Brooklyn. Okay. Knicks play at Atlanta. Okay, so this is a big night. So, and the Knicks, first of all, overall, the Knicks must win against Atlanta. They must win. But it almost doesn't matter who wins between the Heat and Brooklyn, because either way it helps the Knicks if they beat Atlanta. So let's go through the process. Let's say the Knicks beat Atlanta. Okay. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. It's not a given they're going to beat Atlanta. We're hoping they could beat Atlanta. But the Knicks beat Atlanta. The Knicks go to 33-27. Let's say Brooklyn beats the Heat. Then the Heat would be 32-27. The Knicks would be a half game up on the Heat, and the Knicks would be in the 6th seed. And Brooklyn would remain in the 5th seed at that point. Brooklyn would be 34-24. And they would remain in the 5th seed, obviously. And they would actually be in the 5th seed. At that point, they would be up by 2 games on the Knicks. If Miami beats Brooklyn, okay, Brooklyn's 33-25, Miami would be 33-26. And again, if the Knicks win, they'd be 33-27. It would crunch everything up. The Knicks would be 1 game from Brooklyn, a half game from Miami. Miami would be a half game from Brooklyn. It would be completely bunched up there. Okay, and coming out of the break, the Knicks start off against Washington, right? Coming out of the All-Star break, the Knicks start off against Washington. The Knicks schedule at that point, I'm not saying it's easy, it's not, but the Knicks schedule after the break is like this. They start off, they have Atlanta night. Then a week from now, they go to a week from Friday, they go Washington. In Washington, at home against New Orleans. So you get 2 games that you can win coming out the break. Then it gets a little tough. You got Boston at home. You got Brooklyn again at home. Then you go to Miami and Boston. So now it's getting to the nitty gritty. So if the Knicks, what I'm saying is, if the Knicks can be in a good position going into the break, either in 6th seed or a half game, and then, with a 1 game difference between 5th seed and the Knicks coming out of the break, it's almost like even, because both of these teams, Brooklyn and Miami, we got to face a few times. They got to face us. So that's how it looks. Whereas, like, for Brooklyn, coming out of the break now, so they got to play. They just lost to the Knicks. They got to go and play Miami at home tomorrow night. Then they got Chicago at Chicago. They got Atlanta at Atlanta. So they also get not pushovers, but winnable games. Then they got Milwaukee. Then they got back at us, and then they got Boston. So their first 5 games is a little tough coming out of the break. Okay? Now, Miami coming out of the break. Now, we know, as I said, tomorrow they play Brooklyn. Then, coming out of the break, Miami plays at Milwaukee. Okay? Then they get at Charlotte. But then they got 2 games, home and home against Philly, and then they play us. So, see, it's good if the Knicks could end up this break with a win against Atlanta. It almost doesn't matter what happens between. It would be nice for the Knicks, just in terms of bragging rights, to be in the 6th seed. So if Brooklyn beat Miami, New York would be in the 6th seed with a win against Atlanta by half a game. But it's still going to be bunched up. It's going to be bunched up. And all of us, Brooklyn, New York, Miami, are playing each other coming back from the break. So This is going to be very interesting. Okay, this is heating up, and this is what I said when I said months ago. Don't worry about what's happening in October and November. Tibbs' teams gets better after the 40-game point. They get better. Okay, later in the season. This is what you want. And then, as I mentioned, we acquired Derrick Rose 2 years ago. It's a really good omen that we acquired Josh Hart this time. See, last year we acquired Cam Reddish, but the management and the coach wasn't on the same page. Okay? This year and the year before that, management and the coach was on the same page to get Derrick Rose. Management and the coach was on the same page to get Josh Hart. Both of them contributed immediately to the success down the stretch of the Knicks. This is going to be a good sign for the Knicks. This is a good sign going forward. So we really got to win this game tomorrow night against Atlanta, put us in a really good spot going into the All-Star break, and then it's a dogfight. It's going to be a dogfight in March to see what seeds you get. So these teams, I feel like these three teams are going to be in these seeds. It's a question of who's going to be in what seed. So you're going to have one of them, one of them is going to end up in the 5th seed, one in the 6th seed, one in the 7th seed. So if the Knicks end up in the 5th seed, like if we were to end up in the 5th seed right now, we play Cleveland. I like our chances in the 7-game series. It would be a dogfight, but it would be the 4 or 5 game. I like our chances against Cleveland. Okay, I like our chances against Philly. The only teams that I'm concerned, the only team I'm really concerned with, the most concerned in the top 4 is the Bucks. We've seen how proud the Bucks. Giannis and them are just good. They've been there. They won a chip. They know what they're doing. Okay, so that's a little tough. I like our chance against Cleveland, Philly, Boston, because it's Boston. Not because Boston's not good, but because we match up well with Boston. So I like our chances. So if the Knicks can get the 5th seed, we be in really good shape. Because I really feel like Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, and Cleveland are going to pretty much end up in that. I think Cleveland going to end up the 4th seed is what I'm saying. I think Cleveland going to end up the 4th seed. Okay? And so if we could get the 5th seed, that would be our first round matchup. Cleveland. It would be excellent. It'd be good, wouldn't it? Because the Donovan Mitchell situation, it would be perfect, right? So it would be Cleveland, New York, first round NBA playoffs 2023. Imagine that. So right now the Knicks are 5 games over 500. They played 59 games. Their 60th game is going to be tomorrow night, as I mentioned, at Atlanta. And who would have thought? All of these people, there were some fools out here talking about the Knicks only going to win 8 games. The Knicks going to be in the lottery. The Knicks only going to be in the play-in because they can't break a zone. Some of y'all. Anyway, the Knicks going to be good to go. Okay, we just trying to decide if we can get the 5th seed. We can get the 6th seed. Can we get the 5th seed? Okay, that's what we're talking about. The Knicks put it this way, the momentum is on the Knicks side. The acquisition of Josh Hart created more momentum. Here we come. We here. Y'all have a good Tuesday. Sure.